Center TV. Like what you see? Beautiful works of art, masterworks of metal, and accomplishments of artistry will be on display near you. All kinds of artists from all walks of life come together to celebrate their skill and appreciate their work's beauty. Hot Works presents the 2023 Orchard Lake Fine Art Show. Stop by July 29th and 30th between 2 and 10 p.m. between Powers and Daly off of Orchard Lake Road.
When the temperatures are chilly, being together warms the soul. Keep the winter fun going. Help protect yourself and those around you by keeping your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
1 in 4 Michigan homes has high levels of radon, a naturally occurring radioactive gas known to cause lung cancer. It doesn't matter where you live or what type of home you have. You won't even know it's there unless you test. So don't wait. Testing is cheap and easy, and if there's a problem, it's simple to fix. Visit michigan.gov/radon to learn more.
We took action. Will you?
Hello, nose. My nose knows is when somebody uses the bathroom. Mom, Polly didn't flush. Ooh, I smell cookies.
I smell an A+. How could my nose be running when it stays on my face?
Our noses know if those sniffles are just a cold, allergies, or COVID-19. So swab it. Test it. It's good to know.
You're listening to your radio homes for the Megacast, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Today's edition of the Megacast begins now. Welcome to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Today we'll be talking to a number of people about topics of interest and importance to Michiganders just like you. Let's begin with what's making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page. Our top story comes from MLive's Alyssa Burr. Following last week's vote in the House, the Michigan Senate on Tuesday voted to repeal the state's so-called right-to-work law first enacted in 2012. This particular repeal vote differed from that of the House as both chambers had presented different versions of this legislation. So, in that case, the right-to-work law stands in place as is for the time being and will not yet be sent to the governor's desk, despite being repealed both in the House and in the Senate. This is the case because of the bills differing in the House and the Senate. That the Senate's affirmative vote yesterday means the bill will now go to the House from the Senate in order to go through a process called enrollment. Now, should the Senate's bill be passed through enrollment in the House of Representatives, at that point, it would then go to Governor Whitmer's desk to either be signed into law or be vetoed and be returned to the legislature, although you can presume that both of those scenarios would be going affirmatively for this legislation, as both chambers of the state's Congress are currently Democratic, and same goes, of course, for Governor Whitmer. So you would presume that this bill will go through enrollment affirmatively in the House of Representatives and be sent to the governor's desk very soon. Said Senate Majority Leader Winnie Brinks, a Democrat from Grand Rapids, quote, "The failed experiment of gutting Michigan workers' rights is soon to be over. It's a new day here in Lansing, and today we are taking action to empower workers by restoring the rights that they always relied on," and closed quote. The repeal is justified by Democrats as a means to restore the strength of union labor here in the Great Lakes state. However, their Republican counterparts across the aisle say that repealing right to work would stomp on competition between workers and rip the right to choose whether or not to join a union away from a large number of Michiganders, forcing them either to choose between receiving the benefits and the regulatory protections that are provided by a union and therefore paying dues in order to be part of that union, or potentially face differing work conditions and pay than their colleagues who are unionized. Senate Minority Leader Eric Nesbitt, a Republican from Porter Township, said this as much as he exclaimed, quote, "The actions of repealing this right to work will effectively be denying our fellow citizens the freedom of self-determination, and that cannot be a more un-American sentiment," and closed quote. This is a huge issue here in the state of Michigan. It was a big issue back in 2011, 2012 across the United States as Republican leaders here in Michigan, very notably with our neighbors in Wisconsin, had passed these sort of laws, and now coming back around to being repealed with majorities in both the House, the Senate, and with the governorship all being Democratic. This has been a key point for that party as they in the 2022 election and following, to get right to work repealed and restore some power to unions and to being able to unionize here in the state of Michigan and have those unions be effective in negotiating labor with employers and with large companies, and companies really of all different sizes here in the state of Michigan. But that debate has really gone from two different sides, the Democrats being in favor of repealing this law, restoring some of the power that was with labor unions prior to right to work being enacted during the Snyder administration here in Michigan back in 2012, also with a majority in the Republican caucus in the legislature. And on the Republican side, their concern is that by repealing this law, it's not really giving power back to the unions as much as it's taking power away from workers who in this case had the right to either join a union or be independent from a union in their workplace. In some cases, different companies may only hire the labor of union workers because of those protections that they have specifically laid out in their collective bargaining agreements with those labor unions. So those employees would then therefore have to either join a union in that case or potentially lose their job. That's the argument being made by the Republicans in this case. The Democrats are saying that's not the case here, but in this case, unions would just be able to this is restoring power to the unions, not taking power away from the workers. So that's going to be where these two parties continue to butt heads on this issue. That being said, it looks like a foregone conclusion here in Michigan that this will go through the House once again. It will go to Governor Whitmer's desk, and it will be signed. There's been some concerns about different appropriations being made in this legislation, funding and budgetary purposes, budgetary measures that have gone into this legislation, which happens pretty regularly, both in the state of Michigan, in Lansing, in the House, and in the Senate, as well as in Washington, D.C., as different provisions are added onto these bills or conditions are added onto these bills that may or may not even affect that particular issue that's being covered. That's something that was brought up as a potential concern for Governor Whitmer and her office in signing this bill, but the indications from this article from MLive are that that's not a huge concern for the governor, and that her office would be willing to pass this through. Should it go through the House, and you could presume that it will, and get to her desk, and we would expect that to happen quite soon. That full article from MLive with more information and supporting materials too, as well as some more perspectives from leaders in Lansing across the aisle, can be found on our website, civiccentertv.com. Just click on our local news page. Also making headlines today from the Oakland presses and Runkle, expect delays on westbound I-96 today, as only one lane will be open from Beck Road in the Wixom and Novi area all the way to Kent Lake Road just before Kensington. This is part of the operation to place traffic line markings in preparation for a traffic shift that is expected to come this weekend as more work continues to be done on westbound Interstate 96. MDOT has said that motorists should expect some ramp closures as well in that area of I-96, but the project could potentially be delayed if inclement weather takes effect this weekend. They may suspend these operations if that does happen, although I wouldn't expect that at this time. Looking at the weather forecast here in Metro Detroit, there's not really an indication that we're going to have any sort of major weather event over the weekend. We are expecting on Friday to have some rain throughout the day, but Saturday is looking cloudy but clear. Same thing with Sunday. So you can expect, given that information, that today those delays will be in place, and that other delays going in, and that later on the pavement markings in preparation for this weekend's traffic shift. That weekend traffic shift will also be in place on I-96. So if you have to travel on I-96 throughout the rest of this weekend into the weekend, you may want to give yourself some extra time. On the opposite side of the road, delays will occur on Thursday as eastbound I-96 will have one lane open in order to do some environmental cleanup after a recent car crash that happened on that side of the highway. It's an important job that has to get done before this weekend, when traffic will also be shifted on eastbound I-96 from Kent Lake Road to I-275 on 96. All of this is part of MDOT's project aiming to create a flex route on I-96 in the western region of the county. Flex route, in this case, utilizes the shoulder as an additional lane or potential additional lane during heavy traffic periods, allowing traffic flow to continue without as much of an obstruction when there's heavy traffic due to commutes or due to weather or other conditions, or they have to shift traffic over due to construction in other lanes or a traffic accident, and so on and so forth. Those flex routes can really help prevent some of that congestion from snowballing over time. So this is happening today. Lane closures on westbound I-96 can be expected. One lane will be open today from Beck Road to Kent Lake Road on I-96. So a little bit after you get through our area here in the West Bloomfield area, where we originate our broadcast, as you head west on I-96, especially if you're headed out to Lansing or going across the state today and you're taking I-96, you can expect some delays in that area as you're going through the Wixom, Novi area out toward Milford on westbound I-96, and the same thing coming back this way from Kent Lake Road to the 275 interchange on I-96, as they'll be doing cleanup for environmental purposes tomorrow on that area of I-96 due to a recent traffic accident. Finally, making headlines on our local news page today on CivicCenterTV.com from Frank Witzel at the Detroit Free Press. Gas prices in the state of Michigan continue to have the recent ebbs and flows, reaching its peak so far for the year at $3.55 per gallon last week, before experiencing a 2-cent drop to $3.53 per gallon as of Monday. In recent weeks, unleaded gasoline prices have jumped by 7 cents here in the Great Lakes state, but still are lower at this time by nearly $0.75 than they were a year ago. And experts at AAA say the recent drop in price may not be the last, as long as conditions remain optimal for prices to drop. That means we need to have demand for gas continue to be pretty low, and oil costs also have to avoid a spike in the near future. All that happens, we can expect that our gas prices can continue to drop by a few cents here and there, and shouldn't see any big rises back above where they're currently at for at least a little while. But again, that all depends on the conditions of the market. If more people are buying gas, the demand is going to be higher and the supply is going to be lower. Basic economics, Econ 101, the price will go up. Same thing's going to happen if the price of oil goes up, the price of gas will also go up. And if both of those conditions are trending upward, or in this case, as it's an opposite thing there, as it's counterintuitive, as that demand goes upward and the price goes upward for both of those, the price could also rise. So that's something to keep an eye on. But right now, trends are in a positive direction, with prices lowering in the state of Michigan. Across the state, the highest average prices are here in the Metro Detroit area, as well as in Ann Arbor at $3.55 per gallon. That also, with next being Jackson, 1 cent below at $3.54 a gallon. To find the best savings on the base price of a gallon of gas, you'll have to burn a little bit of gasoline and do some traveling out of our local area to Benton Harbor, $3.49 per gallon, all the way across the state in Grand Rapids for $3.50 a gallon, or going up north to Traverse City, $3.52 per gallon. All these headlines are making news today on our website on CivicCenterTV.com. Just click on our local news page at the top of the page on your computer web browser, or in the left margin of the screen if you're using our website on a mobile device. You can also get COVID-19 updates as well as local updates from many of our local municipalities here in Oakland County at the top of our page as well. But this is a great resource to go each and every day to find some of those top stories around our local area right on our website, CivicCenterTV.com. It's our local news page. We post articles each and every day right before our show about what we're going to talk about in this segment, and it's a great place to reference back as the week goes on and you're trying to keep up to date with the news specifically affecting us here in Oakland County, or more generalized things across the state that will have an effect here in Oakland County, such as the right to work law repeal and so on. Those articles remain on our page for the entirety of the week and all the way through to just before our next show to begin the next week on Monday morning. Well, it's when we clear those out and replace them with the latest articles from this week. So whether you're tuning in today or you're tuning in on Friday for the first time or watching these shows back throughout the week, you can always follow along. Or if you're just going to our local news page to get quick hits of news from great local publications and excellent journalists doing amazing work on the front lines of these stories here in Oakland County and around the state of Michigan throughout the week. Our local news page is a great place to go if you don't want to have to scour through all the different newspapers and TV channels and other outlets and social media and figuring out what's correct, what's incorrect. We provide those links directly on our website, and you can click through, read more of the supporting materials from those publications. Certainly, if you have the means to do so, we would highly encourage you to subscribe to those publications and support local journalism here, an extensive journalism being done here in our local area to keep you updated on many of these stories. Some of them just basic updates on what's going on in Lansing, or fun stories of human interest here in our local area, or investigative stories and looking into some things that may be a little bit fishy or maybe bring up some question marks for you. We had a story on that page yesterday from Bridge, Michigan that talks about DTE Energy and them cutting costs in operations and in hiring in 2022 in order to maximize the dividend paybacks for their investors. That's a little bit of controversy there. It brings up some question marks, and those are details you may want to know and may be surprising to you, especially as these organizations go ahead of state committees this week to discuss some of these issues. And all this you can get updates on civiccentertv.com on our local news page, and also on our homepage we have links to more updated news and information from our 4 communities that we cover here primarily in the greater West Bloomfield area, and Orchard Lake, Eagle Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and West Bloomfield Township, our State of the Communities, and a full copy of Oakland County's State of the County that happened last night right here in West Bloomfield, just up the street from us. So we have a great show ahead on today's edition of the Megacast. Up next, Oakland County Executive David Coulter, as I said, delivered his State of the County address last night just a few blocks away from our station at the Jewish Community Center of Metropolitan Detroit. We'll review his speech and show you some of the highlights on the other side of this break. Stay tuned. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
I'm Steve Eiserman of the Detroit Red Wings, and I think every child in Michigan deserves a safe, healthy, and happy childhood. Can we build a state where Children Trust Michigan isn't just a name, but something our kids believe? Please support Children Trust Michigan as the voice for children and families by visiting the website to learn more.
Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you. I'm so sorry this happened.
It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4.
Like what you see? Beautiful works of art, masterworks of metal, and accomplishments of artistry will be on display near you. All kinds of artists from all walks of life come together to celebrate their skill and appreciate their work's beauty. Hot Works presents the 2023 Orchard Lake Fine Art Show. Stop by July 29th and 30th between 2 and 10 p.m. between Powers and Daly off of Orchard Lake Road.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. You can learn more about our program and stay up to date with us on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast. You'll find more information on all of our partnering stations across Oakland County and throughout the Great Lakes State, including our co-flagship at My Michigan TV, and find each one of our segments and all of our full episodes on demand as well. So you can watch us any time of the day. Of course, we're live Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. throughout the majority of our network, live to tape in other parts of the network, such as Orion Neighborhood Television and Birmingham Area Municipal Access each and every day. And you can always learn more about every one of those stations and the great original programming they're doing in the other 23 hours of the day that they're not spending with us on the Megacast during the weeks and throughout the weekends as well for replays by going to our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast. Well, Oakland County Executive David Coulter delivered his State of the County address last night at the JCC right up the street from us here in West Bloomfield Township, overviewing a mass of accomplishments in Oakland County over the past year, as well as discussing ongoing efforts helping residents and the community at large in our local area, as well as other issues that are of chief importance to his administration right here in Oakland County. It was a wonderful event, the full ceremony with speakers, not just Executive Coulter, but others from throughout the local area, is on our website on demand on civiccentertv.com, right on our homepage, second link from the top, right under our State of the Communities for our flagship area here in the greater West Bloomfield community. The State of the County is right below that, and that will be replaying on Civic Center TV throughout the afternoons, evenings, and weekends over the next couple weeks as well. So go ahead and view that on our website. But today we'll go over a few of the really big topics of interest and conversation that were had with Dave Coulter last night at the JCC. Among the topics of great importance was education in the state of Michigan, and particularly educational efforts here, of course, in Oakland County. We know the state of Michigan's been putting forth efforts to make college education and skilled trades certification programs more affordable. Heck, yesterday we just talked about a great effort being done by those in our neighboring county, in Wayne County at Wayne State University, to provide free tuition-free education to students from families making less than $70,000 per year in total income. And that's just one of the many things being done at the state level and at the local level to make education more affordable and more fruitful and help people get a really good degree or really good certification or both and be able to turn that into an excellent, long-standing and fruitful career right here in Oakland County and be able to start their own businesses in those sectors as well, right here where it all began. And Oakland County Executive Dave Coulter talked about many of the programs being enacted here in the local area to support students of all ages and people looking to bolster that education or retrain themselves for new careers, including some true stories of success through programs such as Oakland 80. Let's take a look at this clip from last night's State of the County.
And young adults, and even not so young adults, going back to school is at the heart of our Oakland 80 initiative. Oakland 80, there's a fan, yes. So we launched this in 2020, and Oakland 80 is our transformational effort to ensure that, get this, 80% of the adults in Oakland County have a post-secondary degree or industry-recognized certificate by the year 2030. Oakland 80 is our North Star, not only because it's important to the future of our economy, attracting and retaining businesses, but because it's important to the future of our residents, to help them achieve their dreams and live their best lives. So, using American Rescue Plan dollars, we've hired a team of navigators to provide one-on-one assistance to our residents. And now, more than 700 people have received in-depth counseling, coaching, and education services from this great team. We've given our workforce offices the money that they need to provide wraparound services and to eliminate the barriers like transportation and childcare that are preventing adults from enrolling or completing their education. So for Lisa Bika-Gradsky, raising kids in tight budgets kept her from completing her degree. She cheered her children on during their classes at Adrian and Michigan State University. Go Green. But you know what? She also dreamed about earning her own degree someday in social work. When she encountered an Oakland 80 navigator at an event in Troy, everything for her changed. The navigator helped her apply for the Michigan Reconnect program and federal financial aid assistance for her tuition costs. They assisted in getting the credits she received over 20 years ago transferred to Oakland Community College. Now, in her mid-50s, Lisa's enrolled and on her way to an associate's degree, telling her kids, it's mom's turn now. Yeah. So let me share with you another story about the impact of Oakland 80.
I registered my classes like I would normally have been doing for the last 3.5 years. And then I got a letter from the financial aid advisor, and it was saying that I had exhausted my financial aid. So when I called, the financial aid advisor was telling me, like, you know, these next set of classes, in order for you to graduate, you're gonna have to pay for it out of pocket. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I didn't came this far. I have a health issue, and then income is just limited. I'm fixed the income. So I just was like, Lord, what am I gonna do? I prayed on it. And then one day, out of the blue, my counselor from the school emailed me, and it was just a general email to everybody on the campus saying that we have resources for anybody who needs help with paying for tuition, for classes, for books, for supplies, and even childcare.
Kylisha was the first student that I met on my first day at Rochester University. Of course, I asked her what major she is, and she mentioned early childhood development, which is great because Rochester University is amongst the best in the country. Asked her what she wanted to do with that, and she snap responded, I want to open up a daycare in Pontiac for my community. I knew right then I was talking with a remarkable person, because that's not your everyday response when you ask a student what they want to do. There was just one problem with that. She was about 2 weeks away from being dropped from school. She had nearly a $4,000 balance, and the time was kind of running out. It's hard enough to keep going for some college students, so we know that if they drop, there's a chance they don't come back. And I knew exactly what I had to do, and that's bring her to Michigan Works Troy and introduce her to Sue Kwapik.
Jason came into our office here and he said, Sue, I have a client that I'm working with. She really, really needs assistance. Kylisha was in arrears with some tuition. It was preventing her from graduating. And what was most important is she's going to be graduating this year. She was planning on graduating in 2023. Timeline was tight. It was going to be over our limits of what our capacity is for supportive services for that tuition reimbursement, or tuition assistance, if you will. So we had to go to the county for a waiver. Pulled that paperwork together, and within 24 hours we were able to get that happening for them as well. These are the moments that keep us going. It really does. The joy, the appreciation, the authenticity, and knowing that we are going to be making a difference in her life.
Kylisha's on her way, and Oakland 80 is going to be with her every step to make sure that she's successful on the end. We are really looking forward to just watching her career grow, watching her daycare flourish, and getting her all the resources we can to make her successful.
Because Jason, he's really great. He's a great person. It was just like, okay, I finally got somebody to advocate for me, but to have somebody else fight for me and want me to graduate as much as I want to, it was like, wow. And to have somebody to fight for you so hard, that really meant, a lot to me. And there are some really good, kind-hearted people in this world.
I think you can see what I mean when I say Oakland 80 can be transformational for people. But get this, in 2 short years since we launched Oakland 80, we have gone from 61% of our residents with a post-secondary degree or certificate to 67.5%. That's real progress. That is real progress, and we are on our way. But hard work remains ahead to get to that ultimate goal. You know why? Enrollment is down across the board, and especially among low-income, minority, and first-generation students. So I'm grateful for the leadership of Governor Whitmer, who's proposed expanding the state Reconnect Tuition Scholarship Program to cover even more young adults. And I'm also pleased to be joined, And representing her is someone here tonight that I'm pleased to introduce, which is Susan Corbin. She's the director of Michigan's Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, and she houses the governor's 60 by 30 initiative. So Susan, thank you. Thank you for your work. And thank you to the efforts of Oakland University, Oakland Community College, and Oakland Schools. They all share my urgency in the need to reverse the trend of declining enrollments. But it's not just the schools that we need on board for this program. We need labor unions who run so many important apprenticeship training programs. We need businesses to provide the time and incentive for their employees to continue their education or their training. We need residents to create a culture where every young person and every adult with some credits but no degree knows that in Oakland County, education makes it happen, and we're happy to help you navigate your future.
It's a really good point being made by Executive Coulter about the participation in these programs by local businesses, especially right now when these businesses in some cases are struggling to retain employees, struggling to find employees. Investing in that education, much like we used to see back in the 80s and the 90s, and when I say we, I mean the general society, not necessarily including myself. I was a small child in the late 90s, and I didn't exist in the 80s, so I wouldn't know. But just from stories that I've heard, that companies had invested in their employees and their education, and would either help by reimbursing for educational costs or by paying for an employee's education in order to help retain them after they do graduate and bring skilled workers into their work environment. And that same thing goes for those in the skilled trades. We think about programs already existing, as Executive Coulter mentioned, through Oakland schools and their technical campuses that form apprenticeships from these trade programs that they have at that level, get people eventually into these skilled trade programs to get their certificates, to get them well on their way to their certificates that they will need to have careers in some of these trades. That's a really important aspect of what's being done on the educational side, and it goes to supporting our local small businesses, which was also something that Executive Coulter talked about, supporting our business community and seeking to bring overseas companies to Oakland County as they pursue their quest to expand their business into North America, but even more so to provide assistance to bolster those extensive small businesses that we have here in our local area as well, focusing on helping existing businesses recover and surge into the future after the COVID-19 pandemic had a large effect on their bottom lines and on their futures, as well as supporting new businesses and helping them step up and thrive here in Oakland County. Let's take a look at what Executive Coulter had to say in that regard.
So while our residents are the core of our economic future, so are the small businesses that call Oakland County home. So let me talk about them for just a moment. Did you know that of the 39,000 businesses in Oakland County, 95% of them have fewer than 50 employees? These are literally the backbone of our communities, the businesses that make our downtowns unique and lively, and the employers of many of our residents. Investments by big companies rightfully gets a lot of attention from the state and from us, but our small businesses, well, they need help too. We knew we had to step in after the pandemic, first to stabilize, then recover, and then to thrive. And that is how our Business Forward program was born. Launched last year with 9 consultants embedded in communities to help our small businesses, it has now grown to 16 people, and they've had significant success. They're working with entrepreneurs, mom and pop shops, small businesses, to make sure they know about the resources available to help them succeed. It could be helping a business owner find the financing or the grants or the shop space they need to start or expand a business. Could be assisting an at-home cook bringing their product to market, or pointing a retailer to the social media opportunities that will allow them to grow demand for their merchandise. The Business Forward team has met with more than 2,200 businesses and is targeting a goal to double that this year. And now, the team is under the umbrella of Oakland Thrive, a new nonprofit organization announced just last week and inspired by Oakland County officials and business leaders. This organization is designed to be flexible, nimble, and sustainable for years, working with our great partners in Chambers of Commerce's and the DDAs across Oakland County. Our economic outlook showed us that prosperity does not touch every business the same in Oakland County. It will also be the mission of this organization to help the county close the gaps that exist for women-owned and minority-owned and veteran-owned businesses as well. In fact, Thrive is what a DEI initiative looks like in the economic development world, and another example of how we're integrating DEI into all of our county strategic objectives. But we're also benefiting from our forward-thinking partnership with Automation Alley, which is now home to the only U.S. Center for Advanced Manufacturing in North America, and we're proud to have them here. This designation and efforts to move from traditional manufacturing to cost-effective advanced manufacturing will help Oakland County lead the way in bringing jobs back to the United States. Right, Haley? Yes. I know you're... Exactly. We're expecting these efforts to help retain our 2,600 small manufacturing enterprises, as well as help them to expand their operations in the future. Get this, in the last year, 40 companies, most in advanced manufacturing, robotics, or EV production, have expanded their footprint or decided to locate in Oakland County. With big and small manufacturers alike, ranging from Our Next Energy and Fanuc Robotics, to Via Motors relocating their headquarters to Auburn Hills, and Zeiss building its environmentally friendly innovation showroom in Wixom. The investments represent more than 7,000 retained and new jobs here in the county. Because we have a lot to do for Oakland County to continue to generate 21% of Michigan's gross domestic product right here. But I am confident that with our renewed strategic partnership with Automation Alley, with Thrive, the Detroit Regional Partnership, and the MEDC, we can achieve our goals of building a thriving and inclusive economy for all.
I mentioned overseas recruitment to our local area before we showed that clip, and Executive Coulter, well, let's just say, as he was talking to some of those companies and trying to recruit them to come to Oakland County, he had to go to the big screen and the charts a little bit in order to get the ball rolling in some of those negotiations. It was a really funny moment from last night's State of the County that was delivered by Executive Coulter at the JCC right here in West Bloomfield. Let's take a look at that moment as he tells that story from trying to recruit some of these companies from Europe to expand into North America right here in our local area.
While I was there, I did discover that many people really didn't have a sense of our location in relation to Detroit or the Midwest. So here's what I did. I started to ask our hosts if they had ever heard of M&M. And I swear, virtually all of them raised their hands. This guy is known all over the world. They also knew about the movie 8 Mile and nodded in recognition when I explained to them that, well, we share 8 Mile on our county's south end with the city of Detroit. Suddenly, Oakland County didn't seem so unfamiliar to our European friends. So I guess I really need to give a shout out to Marshall Mathers for helping our foreign counterparts learn about Oakland County and what a great place it is. Okay? If you're out there, he's not, but he's not.
Lastly, our eyes were opened up to mental health as a community, and the stigma began to fade over the course of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we all began to take a more compassionate look at the state of our mental health, both personally and as a collective society. Executive Coulter did talk about that and what Oakland County's government is doing to address mental health right here in our local area and help people that may be in need. Let's take a look at that moment from last night's State of the County.
The county's largest investment has been in an area that is fundamental to our health and well-being. It's our mental health. 3 years ago, we knew we had to improve access to mental health care for our residents and our kids, but the pandemic, like lots of other things, only exacerbated this need. So we've made an unprecedented $24 million investment to increase access to mental health services across the county. Through a partnership with the Oakland Community Health Network and Oakland Schools, we're providing more mental health professionals in our schools. Through a partnership with the Michigan Health and Hospital Association, we're supporting hospitals as they begin mental health evaluations and services in the emergency rooms. And through a partnership with the United Way of Southeastern Michigan, we've invested in 41 nonprofit organizations to expand their capacity to provide a full range of mental health, social, emotional, and other critical support services to our residents in crisis. And you know what? More than 66,000 people, additional people, from across Oakland County have sought mental health care through the agencies that receive the grants from the county. The stories we're hearing from the agencies are heartening, and they leave me hopeful that the stigma surrounding mental health care is diminishing, because health care must be on par with physical health care and in our attitudes and our services. So to address the unprecedented growth in the number of adults experiencing mental health crisis, the county is now leading an effort to create a new integrated urgent care clinic in the city of Pontiac. Now, this clinic will offer emergency mental health care services to people regardless of their ability to pay. Thanks to a $5 million grant from the state, this pilot, anchored by the county, Oakland Community Health Network, Honor Community Health, and our hospitals, will address the crucial need for improved and expanded access to both primary care and mental health services. Is that what I picked up? Supporting our students, addressing both physical and mental health, providing excellent services to our most vulnerable, extending our fiscal stewardship, and improving our quality of life. This is what calls us to service.
All that footage courtesy of Oakland County as the executive, Dave Coulter, made his State of the County last night at the Jewish Community Center of Metropolitan Detroit, just up the street from us, right here in West Bloomfield Township. Those are some moments of key points from last night of what Executive Coulter discussed. If you'd like to watch the entire ceremony, you can do so by visiting our website, civiccentertv.com. It's right there on our homepage, and you'll be able to watch it live on demand as you see fit. And you can also watch it in replays on our channel throughout the rest of the afternoon today and throughout the week and the weekend as well. CivicCenterTV.com for more information, and of course to watch the full State of the County on demand. We'll take a break. On the other side, Dave Dulio from Oakland University will talk to us about the latest in Michigan politics, and we'll talk about President Jimmy Carter and his impact on national politics, including our current sitting president, Joe Biden. That's coming up next. You're watching or listening to the Megacast.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important.
And now the same is true in the face of flu.
Influenza has the power to infect millions.
But it's easy to protect yourself, your family, and your community.
the flu vaccine is safe and effective. And with COVID-19 still around,
It's essential. Together we can face flu season head on.
Visit michigan.gov/flu.
Many people are feeling overwhelmed and struggling with mental wellness these days. So be kind to your mind. Give yourself permission to breathe. Share your feelings. You are not alone. Have hope. Talk to a Stay Well counselor for free confidential help 24/7 through the COVID-19 hotline.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. You can stay up to date with us on each one of our partnering stations across the county by visiting our website on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Click on any of those links to find more information and find original programming live and on demand from all of our partners. You can also find our shows in each one of our segments on demand as well. About 1 o'clock in the afternoon is when they'll be posted there on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Joining us now, as he does each and every week, to talk about the latest in Michigan politics is Professor of Political Science at Oakland University, Dave Dulio, who also serves as the director of their Center for Civic Engagement. Dave, thanks for being with us again today.
Hey, Tyler, thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you on, as the big story here in the state of Michigan and our politics right now has been over the past week, both the House and the Senate have passed bills repealing the 2012 so-called right-to-work law here in the state of Michigan. Still's got a little bit of a ways to go in the process before it eventually does reach the governor's desk. But this has been a critical issue for the Democrats, both as they went into the 2022 election and now that they have the power in all the branches of the legislature as well as in the executive office to get rid of right to work. What about this issue has made it so divisive between these two parties? Because it really comes down to how much of an impact unions have on our labor force.
Well, I think that part of it goes back to the way in which right to work was passed originally, which was during the lame duck session at the end of the legislature that year, and it was done as a last ditch effort. At the time, Governor Snyder said that he wasn't terribly interested in it as a legislative agenda item. But the legislature passed it and he signed it. I think that Democrats have been eyeing a way to get rid of it since then. And they are fulfilling a campaign promise that they made in the 22 cycle to do just that. I think that there are some interesting aspects to this, though. I mean, if we're totally honest about it, I think there's some intriguing messaging that Democrats are using here when they talk about restoring worker freedom, when it's really the opposite of that, right? When what this will do is make individuals who work at a union business, they must join the union. And I think, the other thing here is that Democrats have tried to and are going to make this something that cannot be overturned by a referendum, by a vote of the people, because they have put in an appropriation amount. They've put in spending into this legislation. And when that happens, that policy is ineligible to be overturned by referendum. What's two other interesting things about this? One, the governor has said that she's opposed to doing just this. And when she was in the Senate and campaigning for governor, she said she would not sign bills that referendum proof a policy item. Yet she's going to sign this one. I think that one thing to be on the lookout for is that those who are for right to work, I think you'll see them move to do a constitutional amendment to restore right to work in Michigan. And I would bet that gets on the ballot in 2024. and if that sounds like it's violating what I just said, referendum proof, a referendum is different than a constitutional amendment. So, it's interesting to me that they are going to go through with this and make it referendum proof. They know that the other side is going to try to, I think, do a constitutional amendment.
Especially when you're on an issue like this that can kind of bounce between the different sides of the political spectrum, because it affects people's ability to work in their workplace or in their sector of the workforce altogether. And so that may not just be a Democrat versus Republican issue, which could give that some steam in the 2024 election, much like we had in the case of abortion on the previous election ballot.
Yeah, we've seen the parties in the last many election cycles, actually, going back to the 90s, use ballot initiatives, whether, a legislative referendum or a constitutional amendment. We've seen them use these issues strategically to try and drive turnout for their side of the aisle. I think that there's unquestionably a element of the abortion proposal last cycle was to drive turnout, no doubt about it.
We're joined by Dave Dulio on today's edition of the Megacast, professor of political science at Oakland University, where he also serves as the director for their Center for Civic Engagement. You can keep up to date on everything going on at the Center for Civic Engagement by visiting oakland.edu/CCE, and you can also follow them on their Facebook page as well. Just search for Oakland University Center for Civic Engagement for more information. And Dave, in the recent weeks, we have learned about President Jimmy Carter. His health has taken a turn for the worst, and he's gone into hospice care as he prepares for the end of his life. This week, he asked President Joe Biden, according to reports from NPR and other news outlets, to deliver the eulogy at his funeral upon his death. We'll talk about the lasting impact of Jimmy Carter in politics on the national level, because one-term president, not regarded necessarily as one of the greatest presidents policy-wise, but one of the best people to ever serve as president, has really been the lasting legacy of Jimmy Carter. But really, let's dive into that and what really he did to impact American politics and what it means to be the president of the United States.
So, I think for his time in office, I think you're right. He's not seen as one of the greatest presidents, and that's because he was in office during a time of pretty troubling economic times, right? I mean, when we think about the inflation that is running rampant today, right? Over the last summer, it was up around 8%. We just got some numbers the other day that in February it was 6% year to year. When we make comparisons about, this is the highest inflation in 40 years. Well, that's Carter, and that is a problem when we look at his presidency through history, right? That's certainly a drag on his time in office. But I think, in fact, his not as big or something that has had as big of an impact as his time in office, but we have to I think look at Jimmy Carter as in the whole. And his time out of office was spent on all sorts of things, trying to make a difference around the world, and he really through his foundation and other work really left a mark post presidency.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me to this idea of looking at presidencies from years beyond and what history does to kind of redefine someone's administration well after they have surpassed their time in the White House. Do we find that, how a better way to phrase this may be, politically speaking, as time goes on and we really have more context to the impact of one presidential administration or one iteration of Congress, so we typically see that history tends to be more friendly to the legacy of these presidencies well after they pass, or do those legacies tend to stay more consistent over time?
I think that depends who we're talking about. I think that in some yes and no, right? I think that in many cases it does get better over time. but there are others that remain relatively negative, right? But I think Carter is one that folks have, maybe the enough time has passed that enough people have forgotten, or it's been mitigated in their thoughts. But certainly his work after his time in the White House has an impact on the way people think about it.
Yeah, Carter, 98 years old, as the longest living American president, and was elected as I mentioned earlier, President Joe Biden's been asked to deliver his eulogy, was actually the first senator to endorse President Carter for president outside of the state of Georgia way back in 1976 during Biden's early time in the Senate in the 70s. Dave, a couple more minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. I want to give you another opportunity, as always, to talk about the Center for Civic Engagement. We know you just had a really important discussion on anti-Semitism that included President Ora Hirsch-Peskovitz, and there's plenty of other programs that are to come, and especially over the next couple of years as we go into a major presidential election cycle. But just talk about in general the Center for Civic Engagement and all the other ways that people can get involved, both on campus at Oakland University, if they're a student or if they're on the staff, or from the general community.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. We did just last week have a really engaging discussion about anti-Semitism and the rise of anti-Semitic incidents across the country, as well as on college campuses. And that we've seen that in places like the University of Denver. We've seen it at Michigan State. We've seen it at Harvard, and you name it. It's probably existed, I think. And if folks are interested in seeing that discussion, they can find it. It's posted to our Facebook page, but you can also find it on our YouTube channel, YouTube/@OU-CCE. And many of our past programs are there that you can find. And if folks are interested in getting involved and want to know more about it, they can, as you mentioned, get to our website, oakland.edu/CCE, or they can email me. I'm happy to talk with folks about ways to get involved either on campus or in other ways in the civic engagement world.
Oakland.edu/CCE is their website. If you would like to watch on demand their office hours on anti-Semitism, youtube.com/@OU-CCE. Dave, thanks as always for joining us.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
Michigan politics every week, discussed on the Megacast on Wednesdays with Dave Dulio from Oakland University. One more time, oakland.edu/CCE for ways that you can get involved with the Center for Civic Engagement all throughout the year, and especially as we go into a very tumultuous, again, election cycle in 2024, how we can discuss that from all different political angles and come to some sort of consensus as a community, or just learn more about those on the other side of the aisle is really important, and they do great work at Oakland University. That is going to do it for today's edition of the Megacast. As always, you can keep up to date with us on our website at civiccentertv.com/Megacast. All of our shows on demand, each one of our individual segments. If you're just tuning in, you missed our discussion on Michigan politics and more with Dave Dulio, you can find that about 1 o'clock each afternoon. We'll have those posted on our website on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. A big thanks to Dave Dulio, as well as Oakland County for their video courtesy from the Oakland County State of the County address, as well as to our crew, Jared Clark at the studio of My Michigan TV, and Calvin Brown, our director at Master Control today at Civic Center TV. That's our show. Until next time, take care of each other, and we'll see you very soon.